can the house you live in right now be built, like, almost too well?
It sounds totally backwards, but yeah.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're looking at this pretty terrifying architectural paradox. Because, think about the modern construction brag you hear from every builder out there right now.
Oh, the ultimate energy-efficient fortress.
Right. They're selling this vision where they tell you they caulked every single micro crack.
Yeah.
They taped every seam in the house wrap. They pumped the walls full of this high-end spray foam insulation.
And weather stripped every door to absolute perfection.
Exactly. It's supposed to be the dream house.
Well, we've spent, the better part of 40 years telling the building industry that this is the gold standard.
Yeah, save energy at all costs.
Right. The entire objective, especially since the energy crisis of the 1970s, has been about saving energy. It was just this pure numbers game to lower heating and cooling bills by creating this impenetrable envelope around the living space.
But there is a massive dark side to that energy-efficient dream, which is basically our mission for this deep dive today.
Yeah, the unintended consequences.
Exactly, because by perfectly sealing our homes against the outside elements just to save a few bucks on the power bill, we've accidentally built an entire generation of houses that are quietly suffocating the people living inside them.
Suffocating is the right word for it, honestly.
Okay, let's unpack this with what I call the Tupperware analogy.
Oh, I like this one.
We basically took our living spaces, right, the places where we sleep and raise our kids, and we turned them into giant airtight Tupperware containers.
Right.
And then we completely forgot to poke holes in the lid.
The Tupperware container is literally the perfect way to visualize this. We made the physical structure of our houses remarkably better, but we optimized solely for the power bill and entirely neglected human biology.
Which is wild when you think about it.
It is. And to understand how we fix this hidden crisis of indoor air quality, we're unpacking two highly revealing pieces of research today.
Right, some really good source material for this one.
Yeah, we're looking at a real-world case study detailing how modern ventilation systems, specifically looking at a Panasonic setup, manage to hit these crucial air quality targets in tight buildings.
And we're pairing that with the guidelines from HHRA, right?
Exactly. A really practical 10-point action list from HHRA.
Yeah.
And for anyone who doesn't know, they're the engineering organization that literally writes the ventilation standards for the buildings we inhabit.
Okay, so since we're sitting inside these sealed Tupperware containers right now, we really need to understand what exactly is getting trapped in the box with us.
Yeah, it's not a pretty picture.
So let's look back at how houses used to work before we got so obsessed with efficiency.
Right, so if you look in HHRA's standard 62.2.
Oh, wait, what is that standard exactly?
Ah, right. It's the baseline mathematical calculation for how much fresh air a residential home needs per hour based on its square footage and occupancy.
Okay, got it.
So if you look at that standard, you find something really striking. Almost no homes built before, say, 2010 or 2015 were constructed with this fresh air standard in mind.
Because builders back then, they just didn't have to think about it.
Not at all.
Like if you live in a mid-century build or, an old 1920s Craftsman, your house just leaked.
Yeah, it leaked everywhere.
It leaked around the sash windows, it leaked under the baseboards.
Straight through the wall cavities.
Right, and right up into the attic space.
Which means you were literally paying to heat the neighborhood in the winter.
Yeah, terrible for the wallet.
But that massive flaw in energy efficiency was accidentally fantastic for human lungs. Nature was doing all the ventilation for us.
Right, the house could breathe.
Exactly. A breeze would hit the side of your house, and the pressure difference would physically push the stale air out the other side, just constantly exchanging it with fresh outdoor air.
But in a new, perfectly sealed home, lined with vapor barriers and spray foam, nature is entirely locked out.
Locked out completely.
So let's look at the roster of what gets trapped inside with you when the house can't breathe, because it is a grim list.
Very grim.
First, you have the carbon dioxide just from you and your family existing and exhaling.
Right, just breathing.
Then you have the off gas.
Oh, yeah. Those volatile organic compounds, or VOCs, they're a massive part of this.
And that's not just some vague concept.
No, it is the literal chemicals slowly evaporating out of the glues in your engineered hardwood floors. The flame retardants in your new living room couch, the solvents in fresh paint.
And then you add in the cooking fumes, right, especially if you're firing up a gas stove.
Oh, absolutely. Gas stoves are huge polluters.
Plus the chemical residues from the sprays you use to clean your kitchen counters. the pet dander, the mold spores that bloom if there's even a tiny hidden moisture issue around a pipe.
And in certain regions, you even have radon gas quietly seeping up from the concrete slab foundation.
And all of that just hits the impenetrable walls of your house and bounces right back into the room.
It concentrates. And the EPA has actually been tracking this phenomenon for decades. Their baseline metric is honestly sobering.
What's the metric?
They find that indoor air is routinely 2 to 5 times more polluted than outdoor air.
Wow, 2 to 5 times.
Yeah, and that's just the baseline. When you look at these tightly sealed, hyper-efficient modern houses without mechanical ventilation.
The Tupperware houses.
Right, the Tupperware houses. That pollution level can skyrocket to 100 times worse than the air outside.
Wait, hold on. I have to push back on that 100 times worse metric.
Okay, sure.
Because what does that actually look like in reality? If the air in my living room is genuinely 100 times more polluted than the air outside on a busy city street, shouldn't I be seeing like a literal smog cloud hovering over my coffee table?
You would think so. But that visual bias is exactly why this crisis goes totally unnoticed.
What do you mean?
Well, we're hardwired by evolution to assess danger visually, right? We think of pollution as thick, brown smog coming out of a tailpipe.
Yeah, exactly. You can see a truck exhaust.
But the microscopic off-gassing from your couch, the carbon dioxide you just exhaled, the ultrafine particulate matter from your gas burner, they're entirely invisible.
Oh, I see.
They just don't scatter light the way a cloud of wood smoke does.
So your eyes scan the room, tell your brain everything is clean and safe, while your lungs are quietly dealing with a toxic soup.
Exactly. And because this threat is invisible, your body is going to feel the physical effects long before you ever figure out what's causing it.
Okay, so let's walk through what breathing that invisible smog actually feels like in daily life.
Sure. The symptoms of a suffocating house are actually incredibly common everyday ailments.
Like what?
It's the dull headache that mysteriously vanishes 20 minutes after you leave the house to run an errand.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's a relentless stuffy nose that just persists through every single season. It's noticing that a child's asthma seems to flare up, primarily when they're hanging out in the living room.
Or, waking up feeling completely exhausted when you know for a fact you just slept for 8 solid hours.
Yes. Or walking through your front door after a weekend away and realizing your house smells stale and heavy, even though you scrubbed it clean before you left.
The sleep thing is wild. Let's talk about the 3 a.m. carbon dioxide spike from the research.
Oh, this is terrifying.
It really is. So think about what happens at 3 in the morning. You're asleep in your master bedroom and the door is closed.
Right.
If there's a slight crack in the window seal, you instantly feel a cold draft on your skin.
Your nervous system alerts you to the temperature drop immediately.
Exactly. But your body has absolutely no sensory mechanism to feel that the carbon dioxide levels in that closed bedroom are quietly climbing toward 1,500 parts per million.
Right. And just to put that 1,500 parts per million into context, normal outdoor fresh air is around 400.
Okay, so 400 is normal.
Yeah. And once you cross the 1,000 threshold indoors, human cognitive performance measurably drops. Your blood vessels dilate, your brain gets sluggish.
And at 1,500...
At 1,500, you are essentially swimming in depleted air. No wonder you wake up feeling like you went 10 rounds in a boxing ring.
But the real tragedy of this invisible threat is the misplaced blame, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. People experience these chronic headaches, the low-grade fatigue, a general sense of feeling unwell, and they blame it on absolutely everything else.
Right. They just brush it off. They say, oh, my seasonal allergies are just really aggressive this year.
Or I've been staring at spreadsheets too long.
Yeah, or I guess my joints just ache because I'm getting older. It literally never crosses their mind that they're quite literally suffocating on their own recycled air.
Which brings us to a really critical housing demographic from the sources.
The awkward middle.
Yes, the awkward middle. If your house was built between roughly 1975 and 2010, you are likely living right in this zone.
Right. So starting in the mid-70s, builders reacted to the energy crisis by figuring out how to seal houses up with better wraps and caulks.
But the building science hadn't caught up to the biological consequences yet.
So your house is tight enough to successfully trap all that bad air, the humidity, the off-gassing.
But it's old enough that nobody purposely designed mechanical ventilation to pull that bad air out.
You live in the Tupperware container, but you don't have that standard 62.2 fresh air system installed.
Exactly. So we've identified the trap. The big question is, how do we solve this?
Right. If you're living in a tight, energy-efficient home that's making you chronically unwell, How do we work backward and engineer fresh air into the space without ripping out all the insulation and going back to massive heating bills?
Because nobody's going to volunteer to pay $500 a month to heat a drafty living room.
No way. So if I'm trying to wrap my head around the mechanics of this, I'm looking at the primary solutions, HSRE, and the Panasonic case study focus on.
The ERV and the HRV.
Yeah, the ERV, which is an energy recovery ventilator, and the HRV, a heat recovery ventilator.
Exactly.
And as I understand it, we're basically talking about a box with two tubes.
That's a good way to picture it.
One tube is acting like a vacuum, pulling all that stale, CO2-heavy, off-gassed air out of the kitchen and bedrooms and blowing it outside.
Right.
And the other tube is simultaneously sucking brand new, fresh air from the outside and blowing it into the house. Am I getting the basic physics right?
You have the airflow exactly right. But the genius of these machines happens in the center of that box, inside what's called the heat exchanger core.
How does that work?
Well, think about it. If it's the dead of winter in Minnesota, you cannot just blow 0-degree air directly into a living room.
Right, everyone would freeze.
The occupants would freeze,
Sure.
and the furnace would just run nonstop, which completely defeats the purpose of an energy-efficient house.
True.
So inside the ERV or HRV, those two air streams, the warm 70-degree stale air leaving the house and the 0-degree fresh air entering, they pass right next to each other through alternating corrugated layers.
But they never actually touch, right? The stale exhaust air doesn't mix with the fresh intake air.
They do not mix, but they pass so closely to one another that the thermal energy, the heat from the outgoing air, jumps across the thin material of the exchanger and warms up the freezing incoming air.
Oh, that's incredibly smart.
Yeah, you get the fresh oxygen from outside, but you keep the heat you already paid your furnace to generate. It essentially recycles your temperature while replacing your air.
That is brilliant. But I did notice a massive climate caveat in the research, particularly using Oklahoma as an example.
Yes, climate matters a lot here.
Because Oklahoma weather is a masterclass in extremes. Like, in January, the air gets so dry that hardwood floors physically shrink and crack.
Oh, yeah.
But then fast forward to August, and it's 95 degrees with 75% humidity. The air outside feels like a hot, wet sponge.
It's brutal.
If I bring that air inside, my air conditioner is just going to drown.
And this is where the crucial distinction between an ERV and an HRV comes into play.
Okay, break that down for me.
So an ERV, the energy recovery ventilator, utilizes a specialized membrane in its core. It doesn't just transfer thermal heat, it also transfers moisture vapor.
Oh, so it's kind of like a Gore-Tex jacket.
Yes, exactly like that.
It lets the moisture pass through the fabric without letting the actual wind or water droplets through.
Right. So in an Oklahoma August, the ERV strips a huge percentage of the incoming humidity out of that fresh outdoor air and dumps it into the outgoing stale exhaust,
It literally throws the humidity back outside before it reaches your living room.
saving your AC unit from working overtime.
And in the winter, it just works in reverse.
Exactly. It captures the humidity from your indoor air before it exhausts outside, preventing your house from turning into a static-filled desert.
That's amazing. And the HRV.
Conversely, an HRV, the heat recovery ventilator, has a solid core that only transfers heat, not moisture.
Okay, so who uses that?
This makes an HRV much better suited for purely northern, colder climates, where summer humidity isn't the primary enemy. In those climates, you actually want to exhaust excess indoor moisture from cooking and showers quickly during the winter.
Right, that makes total sense. So if I'm listening to this right now, looking at my 1990s awkward middle house, and I'm realizing I need one of these machines,
Yeah.
what is the actual damage to the wallet here? What does it cost to retrofit this engineering into an existing house?
Well, if you're retrofitting an ERV by ducting it into your existing HVAC system, you're generally looking at a ballpark of $2,000 to $4,000 fully installed.
Okay, that's not insignificant.
No, it's an investment. It is significantly cheaper if you're building a new house because the walls are open and the ductwork is being designed from scratch. But for an existing home, that's the standard cost to get your house breathing again.
Right. But let's be realistic, though. Dropping $4,000 on an ERV retrofit is not just a casual weekend project for most people.
Definitely not.
So we need to shift gears to the immediate practical steps.
The behavioral blueprint.
Exactly. The stuff AHH recommends that you can do today, requiring 0 contractors and a $0 budget.
Well, the most immediate threat in an unventilated home is moisture accumulation, simply because moisture is the engine that drives mold growth.
Right.
So HHRE is incredibly firm on what they call the 20-minute rule for bathrooms.
The 20-minute rule.
Yeah. Whenever you take a shower, you must run the exhaust fan, and crucially, you must leave it running for 20 full minutes after you turn the water off.
Wow. Most people turn the fan off the second they grab their towel.
Oh, almost everybody does.
Yeah.
But in a sealed Tupperware house, all that steam hanging in the air has absolutely nowhere to escape.
It just sits there.
It just sits there, buries itself into your drywall, saturates your ceiling paint, and quietly feeds mold spores inside the wall cavities.
That is so gross. So you have to leave the fan on for 20 minutes just to give the motor time to physically pump that volume of water vapor out of the room.
Exactly. Give the machine time to work.
Yeah.
Which leads into the second major behavioral fix, tackling the primary source of indoor pollution, the kitchen.
Oh, this is like my absolute favorite thing to rant about.
Boy.
Range hood theater.
Yes.
You know exactly what I'm talking about. You're searing a steak on a gas stove. You reach up and turn on the microwave range hood. It makes this really loud, aggressive humming noise. There's a little metal mesh filter, but if you look up, you literally feel a breeze blowing right back into your face from the top of the microwave.
The classic recirculating hood.
It is pure theater. I mean, yeah, that metal mesh might catch a few heavy drops of airborne grease, but it is doing absolutely nothing to remove the nitrogen dioxide, the carbon monoxide, or the ultrafine particulate matter generated by burning natural gas inside your house.
Nothing at all.
If your range hood does not physically connect to a metal pipe that vents through the roof or out the side of your house, it is not a ventilation device. It is just a very loud air freshener blowing toxic soup back into your face.
Perfectly said. And if you are trapped with a recirculating hood or just have no mechanical ventilation at all, ASHRE highly recommends strategic cross ventilation as your primary free alternative.
Just opening windows.
Yes, but strategically. You have to manually dump the accumulated junk. Twice a day, open windows on opposite sides of your house for just 10 minutes.
Okay, 10 minutes, twice a day.
Right. That cross breeze will physically flush out the stale air, the off-gassing VOCs, and the heavy CO2, replacing it with a fresh baseline of outdoor air.
But we have to throw a massive caveat in here, though.
Oh, definitely.
You cannot just blindly throw your windows open every single day.
No, you have to look outside first.
Exactly. Like if you live somewhere like the Midwest and it's a dry spring day with 40-mile-an-hour winds whipping up red dirt, heavy tree pollen, or smoke from a distant grass fire, leave your windows shut tight.
Yes, please.
You will make your indoor air quality exponentially worse in seconds. On those extreme environmental days, you have to lock down the Tupperware container, rely entirely on your HVAC filter, and wait for a calmer day to cross-ventilate.
That's a great point. Now, say you're noticing these symptoms, the headaches, the fatigue, but you aren't an engineer.
Right. How do you actually diagnose and fix this in the real world?
Well, there is a fantastic case study in the sources involving an HVAC professional named Dave that illustrates exactly how this plays out.
Oh, the Dave story is wild.
It really is. So Dave was called out to a house where the entire family had been chronically sick for months.
We're talking endless trips to the doctor, constant exhaustion, mysterious headaches.
Yeah, and a medicine cabinet full of allergy medications that just weren't doing anything. Nobody could figure out this medical mystery.
Until Dave walks through the front door, takes one look at the environment, and realizes this isn't a medical mystery at all.
Right, it's a fundamental engineering failure.
The house was perfectly sealed but entirely unventilated. The family was literally choking on their own recycled air.
So Dave didn't prescribe allergy pills. He looked at the house as a system.
What did he do?
He added an ERV to mechanically bring in metered fresh air. He pulled out an HVAC filter that was entirely choked with dust and swapped it for a fresh one. And he fixed a broken exhaust fan in the master bathroom that hadn't been pulling moisture for years.
And within 2 weeks, the family's chronic headaches completely vanished. The allergy meds went back in the drawer.
It's incredible.
Dave had this profound realization that, he isn't a medical doctor, but the air that families breathe inside their homes is his direct responsibility.
Yeah, and modern, hyper-efficient construction, fresh air is almost always the broken component that nobody is paying attention to.
So true.
And that case study actually gives us 3 very specific assignments for you to test your own home this week, just to see if you are living in a sick house.
Okay, let's hear them.
Assignment number 1, purchase a basic carbon dioxide monitor. You can find reliable ones online for between $60 and $150.
Worth every penny.
Put it on your nightstand, close your bedroom door, and go to sleep. When you wake up, look at the screen. If that number reads over 1,000 parts per million, Your bedroom is trapping depleted air. You are suffering from that cognitive drop-off, and your room desperately needs a fresh air strategy.
All right, assignment number 2. Perform the 20-minute bathroom fan test. The next time you take a hot shower, leave the exhaust fan running for exactly 20 minutes after you turn the water off. Pay attention to the room. Does the mirror clear significantly faster?
Do the corners of the ceiling stop showing those little beads of condensation?
Right. Because if the room feels noticeably drier, you've just proven exactly how much trapped moisture your fan was previously failing to remove just because you were turning it off too early.
Exactly. And finally, assignment number 3. Go to your furnace or air handler and physically pull out the HVAC filter.
Just pull it right out.
Yeah. If it looks gray, heavy, and matted with debris, your house has just been forcing you to breathe through that gross fabric of dust for months.
Ugh.
Throw it away. When you buy a replacement, step up the MRV rating by exactly 1 notch.
Explain MRV really quick.
MRV stands for Minimum Efficiency Reporting Value. Think of it like a sieve. A MERV H filter is like a chain-link fence holding back large gravel. It catches big dust bunnies and hair. A MERV 11 tighter weave catches smaller particulate matter, drastically improving your air quality.
But wait, we have to emphasize a critical warning here.
Oh, yes. Very important.
Do not just buy the highest RRV number you see on the shelf. Like, avoid jumping straight to a May of 13 filter, especially if you have an older HVAC system.
And it can be a disaster.
Imagine trying to run a marathon while breathing through a thick paper coffee filter.
You wouldn't make it far.
Exactly. That is exactly what a MERV 13 filter does to an older blower motor. It is so incredibly dense that it severely restricts the airflow.
You can literally strangle your blower motor, causing it to burn out.
Or choke the airflow so badly that your air conditioning coil freezes solid into a block of ice. So just step it up by 1 single notch.
Right, just 1 notch. You know, when we pull all of these engineering and biological threads together, we're really left staring at the sheer absurdity of our current era.
It's pretty funny in a dark way.
We spent incredible amounts of money, developed advanced spray foams, and utilized cutting-edge building science to perfectly seal our homes just to save a margin on our energy bills.
And our grand reward for all that efficiency is that we accidentally built ourselves into toxic Tupperware containers. And now we find ourselves having to spend thousands of dollars to install complex mechanical ventilators just to pump the outside world back into our homes in measured intentional doses.
It is a wild paradox. It forces us to look beyond just the drywall and insulation of our houses.
Which actually brings me to a final thought I want you to mull over today.
Okay.
We spent this entire time dissecting the sealed box of your house, but think about your daily commute.
Oh, wow.
You likely spend an hour or two every single day sitting inside a modern car. It is a perfectly sealed metal and glass box, hyper-optimized for aerodynamic efficiency and acoustic noise reduction.
Oh, that's so true.
And you were driving this sealed box down a highway, completely surrounded by a river of concentrated exhaust fumes.
Sure.
So ask yourself, are you actively cross-ventilating your car cabin with fresh air, or are you just driving a much smaller, much faster Tupperware container?
That is a great question.
Something to think about the next time you hit that recirculation button on your dashboard. That wraps up our deep dive into the indoor air quality paradox. Go check those CO2 levels, ditch the fake range hoods, and remember sometimes your walls actually can be built too well. Catch you next time.